Check one, check two. How's everybody doing today? Happy Sunday. Check myself on my phone. Yeah, trying to get motivated. It's AWS second class. Just gonna talk about the general cloud compute basic. Happy Sunday. Let's see, I don't see myself. Yep, there I am. To get started, I usually just go over a couple of videos I did this week to let everybody file in. Happy Sunday. What's up, Helmet? What's up, Wilton? What's up, JM? Congratulations on the Security Plus, man. I think I'm gonna redo my class because I think I got the 5 class and the 601 is out. And that's a little different. I think a couple of the domains are different. So I didn't really do a lot of new videos this week. Let's just go through a couple I did and we'll get started with the AWS. Once again, if you got any security questions, just throw them in the box and we'll talk about them and pivot on and get to teaching. So, the one in the yellow is TikTok. I guess they're doing phishing emails and tricking people into think they're TikTok employees, then they take over their TikTok, or hold it for ransom. Either they gotta pay them for it, or they delete their TikTok. Of course, the same thing is actually going on with YouTube. So be careful out there if you're a content creator. They're trying to trick you and take over your YouTube video. I guess that's one of the highest paid things on the dark web now is YouTube video, YouTube accounts. Taking the AWS SSA CO2 December 2nd. Good luck, man. I'll probably take the practitioners just to practice and get over with the architect, the associate architect. How's your study going? So this is the practitioner. So chime in. You, if you got any, if you want to add anything into it. What's up, Person Center Cyber? How you doing? So this week I just did the influence on TikTok. Then me and a young guy at the top, B2B. That's before the billions. He's a young data scientist, super smart young guy on the scene. Go check him out too on his channel. And me and Black Heights did some stuff there. Cybersecurity educational practitioner. He interviewed me and we're splicing it up, adding to it. So that's it from the videos did. I was kind of, I guess, chilling. So, yeah, the holidays coming up. I'm trying to get motivated. What's up, Game Over? Just trying to get motivated. New year, new me. I got to go on a damn diet in 2022, but I said that in 2021. I'm blaming the pandemic. So let's see how 2022 works. So we're getting it going. So this is going to be the compute section. Cool thing is, I think cybersecurity now, I do a lot of security reviews and assurance on stuff. Originally, I used to say half my stuff used to be in the prem and half my stuff used to be in the cloud. Now I think it's more like 80, 20, 70, 30, where all the vendors that come, I got to look at in the cloud, and all the stuff my clients are doing, most of their stuff they're trying to put in the cloud. So that's one reason I decided to, I guess, get my AWS skills, up there and just started to kind of focus on that. So I'm pretty comfortable with it from a cybersecurity perspective. I know most of the services and kind of how they work and how that, ask those questions for the particular cloud. Because, the cloud, we talking about cloud is the future, the cloud is now, right? With that died emotion. Thanks, Game Over. I just, too, as I got a few things on me, I think I'll be stress eating a few things I got to knock out. So let's go on and just walk through. Like I said, this compute section. This is actually the foundational study for AWS for the practitioner. It's the only foundation one. So I started with that. Then I'm going to step it up. Like my man said, probably the software the architecture one, then do the DevOps, then maybe the programmer, developer. DevOps is super hot, so I might do that next. I used to work in that a lot, probably 5 or 6 years ago. I love DevOps stuff. Anti-forensics tool. I would Google the open source forensic tools out there now, Wilton, and I would start with there. Depending on how much time you got, I would volunteer for one of the open source forensics tools. They're always looking for volunteers. Just tell them you're thinking about starting your own. They're pretty cool with that. Then once you get in with their open source, they'll tell you, what they're researching, how they're researching. Two, if you're thinking about developing one, they'll show you, their GitHub and how they're managing it. Two is, do you want help? Do you want to do it by yourself? Well, and so that's how I would actually start on that, because there's a ton of that out there for digital forensics tools. I'm actually might think of teach a digital forensic class in January on this channel. Funny thing is, at the local college I teach intro to forensics. So I might do this on the channel. So just talking about how to look inside pictures, slack space on drives, um, just a myriad of things from a forensics standpoint. For game over, I work with forensic professionals. That's one thing I've really never done professionally, to be honest. Those guys are super expensive. Now I had some but we had some issues where we had to call some forensics guys in house to research if we were hacked or research if we had an issue. But you usually don't keep those guys in house. Number one, they're super expensive, and number two, you usually don't use forensics guys unless you've been hacked, right, or think you've been hacked. So, like I said, that's super specialized. So we're gonna start off with introduction, basic to AWS. Then I should have put a slash. Then of course, we're gonna have a cybersecurity spin on it. What's up, Antonio? So EC2, of course, what is the basic, the uh, the basic underlying every. I think underlying everything on Amazon. So that's what we're getting to it. So Amazon EC2 Instance, you use a virtual server to run your application in the AWS cloud. So everybody knows that, right? When you're in AWS cloud, Azure, or Google, I'm just gonna name the big three, right? You're not getting the whole server, right? You're not getting the whole database, right? You're getting a piece of it. You're getting a virtual server, right? When you do it, right, it looks more like a server when you're on it, but realistically, you're getting a slice. What's more volatile, cache or network? What's more volatile, cache or network info? I would say, ooh, oh, JM, I was going to say cache. I want to say network info. The reason why I say network info is more volatile, unless you shut down network info, more network info is going to be coming in all the time. So unless you pull the plug on the router or the switch, you probably going to have, especially if you're in a big company, we get thousands of network accounts. So I'm going to go network info. I think most people would say cache, but most of your batteries on your most of your batteries, or especially if you're on a laptop, most people on a laptop, your batteries are going to give you a little more cache. If you're talking about a server, which you might be talking about since you're talking about network info, uh, if you're on a server, probably cache. If you're on a laptop, probably network info. You can provision and launch Amazon EC2 instance within minutes. You can stop using one when it's finished. You pay only for the compute time you use in an instance. You can save more cost by paying only for the server capacity you need or want, right? So that's the main thing. If you're on prem, you gotta buy it heads up, get your space right for your server, for your VM. If you off or you get too much or you get less, if you get too much, you paying too much. You paying for stuff you don't need. If it's too little, then you gotta order more, and it takes weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks, right? It's all good. Game over. Just keep throwing them in the box. So let's talk about it. EC2 runs on top of a physical host machine by AWS using virtualization technology. When you spin up an EC2 instance, you aren't necessarily taking an entire host to yourself. Instead, you are sharing a host with multiple other instances, otherwise known as virtual machines. And a hypervisor running a host machine is responsible for sharing the underlying physical resources between the virtual machines. All right, so hypervisor, right? This VMware, that's the big dog on a hypervisor. If you're doing a laptop, Oracle VM, right? So there's different technologies, but big companies use a couple kinds. The idea of sharing underlying hardware is called multi-tenancy. The hypervisor is responsible for coordinate the multi-tenancy and iterations by AWS. So when you on a machine, you go into your VM. I'm a Linux guy, so I'm in there, right? It looks like it's my own Linux machine, right? It's just me in there. It's kind of rooted off, right? So you got hypervisor root and each hypervisor guest, which we'll look at a diagram, right? So when you do that, you don't know that you're sharing, you don't know that you're sharing a machine with other people, right? And from a security perspective, right, that's an issue, right? If somebody gets out of their VM and gets onto your guest VM because you're on one physical machine, right, that is a security issue or a responsibility you have to be aware of that could become a problem, right? So if you look at the drawing, right, you got the hardware, you got the hypervisor. Each one of those orange boxes, right, is a VM that realistically belongs to you. You pay for it, spins up, right? If you look at the native bare metal one, type one, you got hardware, hypervisor, and you have guest OSs, right? What they missed to show you is over those three guest OS, there's a root OS that controls those, right? If that root OS ever gets hacked, right, it can get to each individual guest OS, right? So from a security perspective, small, but there is a risk there. Type two, you got the hardware, then you have an OS, then you have your hypervisor, then you have your individual machines, right? So that's the hosted VM, right? So depending on which kind you run, but the main thing of both of those pictures is what? You're in a big machine sharing that machine with other companies, other resources, right? Some of those other companies might have zero security requirements, right? So they could be doing weak stuff and getting their guest OS hacked, right? But theoretically, it should be able to get over to your guest OS, right? Because there's separation. Right? But we know every blue moon that fails, right? So that's why sometimes, and I think that's the fourth class. You have a data center just for government entities, agencies, and people that report to government agencies because you want everybody on your hardware to have some kind of security requirements, right? Because that'll be less likely that they guest OS get hacked, which means less likely that you will get hacked, right? So that's kind of why people actually go into a government cloud, right? Because in a government cloud, everybody reports to a government agency that has security requirements. Where if you're in a commercial cloud, you can be next to Professor Black Ops Ribs with no security and get your OS hacked, right? So that's why people go from commercial cloud to the government cloud. We talk about different data centers, different compliances for those data centers. Why would you pay more and pay less? Right? I help a lot of small companies figure out those requirements so they can get work or sell their software to government agencies. Because there's a certain level of security you need to be doing to get into the government cloud. Oh yeah, game over. Just look on my about tab, ProfessorBlackOps at gmail.com, and we can set up a Zoom or something so we can chop it up about it. Yeah, I do that. Uh, when you get a chance, can you explain CompTIA educational, continuing education more specific to CU? I'm a little confused. JM, basically, especially from Security Plus requirements, you have to have so many hours a year of continuing education. When I, even though I let mine lapse, I teach class. That's the CEU. A lot of times I go to my local ISSA security group. If you look that up online, that's a national security group, but they got chapters in each state. If you go to one of their meetings once a month, that counts as continuous ed. So at a high level, JM, they want you to be continuous learning because 5 years ago, cloud really didn't exist. Well, let's go back 10 years ago, the cloud didn't exist. So they want to make sure you're keeping up with certain training and certain classes. Also, I have to take security training for my job. That counts as CEU. So basically, if you look it up, they tell you what applies for continuing education units. So I would take training, um, like I teach, or if you go to training, right, those CEUs, because they want you to keep up with the current things in technology as well as cybersecurity, right? Because it keeps changing and growing. Sharing resources with other companies and their vulnerabilities. That's true, Antonio. But at a high level, I've actually morphed a little bit. Is Amazon technologies and their VM and their uh, VMware and stuff is so good, it's very rare that they would cause you to get hacked, even though you're sharing resources too. And the other part of that, Antonio, is you get it a lot cheaper. And like I said, over the last 5 years, I changed because I've reached out to AWS. They have thousands of security team members on there. Every time I shoot them an email, and I don't have a paid service or anything. I'm usually helping clients, and they get back with me ASAP, Antonio. So with their thousands of security people, they're top notch. And to Antonio, and if you're worried about sharing stuff and resource with other companies, I actually helped a client. They actually bought their own full server. They were, I would call them big small. They were a small company, but they were a lot of things. They just leased their own server, Antonio, so then they didn't have to worry about that. They leased their own big VM server, their own hardware metal, so all the VMs on that server were theirs, and they split their VMs up by teams. Right. So that was so if you want to take on an extra responsibility, Antonio, to add that research, you can buy your own server for app server, web server, database. You can control your own. You can buy your own server for if you worried about that shared resource. Okay. No, James, I don't think you can use this class as a CEU. I think it has to be like because I'm not accredited class or certified anything. Like when you go to an Oracle class from Oracle, they're certified. Even if you take it online, right? Um, those ISSA meetings I go through, and I shoot one. I'm actually talking at the Midwest one in January. I think I'm presenting cloud and federal compliance in the cloud. So I think all of those organizations are certified, JM. So I don't think I qualify, even though I have enough credentials in my background, but this class is not certified. Like when I teach, it's some certifications for national universities. So I think it has to be something like that, JM. Antonio, we're gonna get in. I'm actually do a class more on AWS security probably in January. Right now, this is fundamentals, and I talk about security. AWS has a whole security track, and I think I'm gonna do that in January. So let me know, Antonio. So yeah, I'm thinking about doing the full security, and I do a lot of security reviews for that, Antonio. So if you want me to focus on a specific thing like security groups, VPC is real big because you got to control your traffic. Encryption at rest during a database. So we're actually going to touch on a lot of those things when I go through. Even though the introduction, we're talking about security for the hypervisor. So we're going to do that throughout out this class, probably this 6 weeks, Antonio. But let me know if you want to drill down to some specific. So once again, the hypervisor, the OS, and I actually looked up a couple of CVEs where it actually happened. So if you look at these CVEs, which stands for critical vulnerability exposure, there were some times where the AWS they actually jumped out of the guest hardware and got in the root hardware and started hacking other people in the on the server. So it's actually happened in real life. So here's some of the CVEs you can take out. If you look at the bottom, it says virtually escape can cause virtual machine escape, right? That's what we're talking about. You're in a VM and you escape into other VMs, right? So those are CVEs out there where it's happened to us, kind of quite a few, but those are from VMware, Oracle VirtualBox. So, like I said, it's happening. So. Mm. But you go into detail just as that's true. That's true. Game over. But it's like certifications, like we talked about. Some people want you to have degrees when you got certifications, but you got the certifications, right? So, that's true. Game over. Maybe I'll check into that and try to become more official, like Udacity or Udemy. There's a lot I call them MOOCs, large um, open source classes you can take out there. I probably teach one coming up. Does Udacity look okay on a beginner resume? Someone's looking to get a help desk. Oh yeah, that'll be fine. And definitely check out Kev Tech, Kev Tech IT. He's definitely a help desk guru out there in the manosphere. So definitely go check him. Charge a small fee for when you join to pay half, and when you complete, get employed, you pay the other half. Charge a small fee. I'll think about that. Game over. I'll think about that. Let's talk about scaling. One way of scaling is vertically up, meaning I got a small server, I get more people, I get a bigger server. If I get more people, I get even a bigger server, right? That's scaling vertically, right? When you think of scaling vertically, most of the time I'm thinking of database or learning management system, something that as you get more people, you need to scale up. But some things, when you scale up, it's not going to help, right? So if I have a web server and I have Apache on it, and I get a bigger server, at a certain point, the Apache software can't handle any more connections or transactions for Apache. Why? The software is just not built to handle that many transactions. Right now, a database, I keep adding to an Oracle database, it'll keep handling, many more connections, many more transactions, because it's built to say, okay, I got a bigger server, I can add more SGA memory, I can get a faster disk drives on there. So there's certain things you can scale up and certain things you cannot. Certain things you want to scale what horizontally, right? Horizontal is going to make more sense when you're scaling up, right? So when you scale up, now you see I have one server. When I have multiple people, they three, I get two servers. When I get more, four servers, right? So as Apache, there's a limit on how many connections I can get going Apache on one server, but if I handle like 10 years ago, I did 5,000 connections a minute on Apache before it turned over. So if I put another server with another Apache, right, I got two Apaches now. I take 10,000, right, because it's a separate box, a separate unit. Since I got a separate Apache, the bottleneck's not Apache, right, because I spun up a separate Apache. Right, so some things you can scale vertically and some things you can scale horizontally. Right? When you talk about web servers, app servers, most time they're going to go horizontal. When you talk about databases, they're going to go vertical, right? Because they're meant to add more memory, add more connections, right? This is usually not the bottleneck when you're talking about a database. Let's drill down a little more on the EC2. That's the beautiful part of it. That's the BMU purchasing. Let me read you that. I'll use my course from if you get one. That's cool. That's cool, Antonio. I never want to work help desk professor. I want to get into cybersecurity. No, I feel you. Some people, and I think it's a little easier to get into cybersecurity. When I got in it 15 years ago, people wanted you to start as a stepping stone before you got into cybersecurity, right? Because a lot of times we get into cybersecurity, especially on my team is they want you to have a specialty, right? So we got compliance people. People do DR and Coop. People that we got programmers for Purple Team, right? So and two is a lot of times when you do new people, you do a SOC, right? Security Operations Center. We have one because I work in a big state agency. So they have way more security people too. So they have SOCs, they have interns. So they have a much bigger um, security department than normal, right? And that's kind of the pros and cons. Because a lot of times when you go to AWS takes a lot of those SOC features that you would do when you would have new people do, right? And we'll talk about it. Where they log in it, then they have artificial intelligence that looks at the log and sends you that log information, right? So the question is, how does a new person get into cybersecurity, right, and get those skills? Right? And I think a lot of cybersecurity departments are hiring interns to teach them certain things, right? Because there's insurance, there's security reviews, there's SOC looking up vulnerabilities in the log. So there's a lot of ways people can get into cybersecurity. Because once you get the Security Plus test, shout out to my man Master IT. He's definitely has some good courses and good classes y'all need to check out. They're I think they're super affordable, and he definitely knows what he's doing. But so JM, I'm actually getting my head around it because I'm old. Like I said, we very rarely have interns or young people on the security team because if you mess up on a security team, especially where I work at, that could be $100 million mistake, right? So our security team, we're dusty and old, but we just got a new guy on our team. I think he's 31. So like I said, I think it's changing, and I'm changing my thought pattern too as I get a little older and I get in the game. What's up, my vivid life? Just, so I'm trying, making those changes and just thinking a little differently myself. Real quick, let's go over Amazon EC2 instance types. Because the cool thing is, Amazon, since they've been in business forever, when you get an EC2, which we know as a virtual machine, there's different types of virtual machines depending on what you need to do, right? Every virtual machine is alike. We want to make sure you have the right tool for the right job, even when you are ordering a virtual machine, right? So the instances are optimized for different tasks. When selecting an instant type, consider the specific needs of your workload and application. This might include requirements for compute, memory, or storage, right? Because each one of those EC2s or VMs are there to specialize to do certain things, right? Because there's different domains in IT, warehousing, application, database, app server, and then we're gonna talk about machine learning. I'm trying to get metaverse, get that virtual reality and augmented reality, right? So once again, in the instances, they're general purpose, compute optimized, memory optimized, accelerated optimized, and storage optimized, right? Storage optimized, we want you to be on lightning fast disks, right? Because we're trying to pull petabytes of information off of disks, right? It's probably gonna be SSD RAM. So right, so it's coming out in terabytes, super quick, right? So next topic, what do you deal with more, Linux or Windows? Probably Windows now more. When I was at DoD years ago, there were Linux. Now I deal mostly with Windows, and I'm not happy about it. I do more Windows. And Windows is cool. When you look at GPOs, I don't like the way the organizational units and how you put servers in organization units, and then you sync it up with Active Directory. It's kind of a little messy, but it is what it is. All right, it's part of it. And part of a security professional is right, and the travel is whatever they got, whatever they give you, you got to be able to handle, right? So from a security review, I got enough background to do both. I prefer Linux from a security perspective, but just say I'm starting to make 50 to 80K. I wouldn't mind giving 10 because thinking I'm about making nothing in it that time. A moment. So for me to shell out 10K over the first, I don't mind. Remember, I had zero. No, that's true. That's true. And two is Maddox asked a good correct question. Especially he always asks the question is how much do you give back to yourself for training and making yourself a better person with whatever you want to do, right? And that was an interesting question. So I always give him credit. I'm gonna start interviewing again in 2022. I've been struggle streaming, but what how much what percentage of your salary do you invest in yourself every year? And I thought that was a super interesting question, the way that's worded, right? You should invest in yourself. You should go to AWS conferences because I used to go to Oracle conferences and the stuff you used to learn in those conferences was astronomical, right? Something about going to AWS and some of the top security conferences, even if my company doesn't pay for it, right? You should invest in yourself so you can try to get that next gig or that next job or just making you the better as whatever you want to do, DBA, security, SRO, SRE. There's just so many jobs in IT, right? But reinvest in yourself. Yeah, that's what I'm doing, Davin. I'm doing more of my AWS certs. I'm a security analyst in real life, and I've just been doing a ton of cloud security reviews now. I think it's about 80% of when I review software. That's one of my main jobs is I reviewed a ton of software. Anything hits a network of any of my clients, I want to review, right, to make sure they don't get hacked because people begin to hack through fish tanks and weird stuff. Now, HVAC units were a big thing on a while. People were getting hacked through their HVAC unit, right? So you want to make sure you're just looking at all the software that hits your network. Do you use Azure? Yeah, Devin, I look at a ton of Azure. The reason why is most big companies, they're going to put their O365 email in Azure. Most big companies are going to use Teams. And that whole team architecture, it's cool. You know, I get to work from home a lot. We get on our Teams calls. Teams has a ton of applications in it. I get mad because they keep putting the applications in Teams and don't tell anybody. Any application in Teams I really want to review, but I'm just kind of nerdy like that. So now Azure is going to be up there because the first thing you're going to kind of move to your cloud now is your email. Get that all that Office 365 stuff in Azure. You can sync it to your AD and you're off and running. And a lot of people with phishing emails, the first line of attack. So the first line of defense should be your email. And Azure gives you all that protection. Because they're a big company. Really, they probably one of the top 5 security companies on the planet. If you remember the Solar Winds hack, if you look back on it, Microsoft and Mandiant was going hand in hand as they review stuff back there. What's up, Peter in the house? Field scripts. Windows has large attack surface. Oh, shout out net. You talking to the choir, Netropolis. That's why I'm not a big Windows guy. But I mean, if you talking about attack surface, I mean, directly if you set up your network right, your attack surface probably shouldn't be any bigger than Linux. The problem is the attack surface is bigger because Windows seems to have a lot more vulnerabilities than Linux. But I think the reason that is because Windows has a much bigger um, user base than Linux. So I think that's why people attack. Right. Let's roll through the general purpose instance, right? This is the general purpose VM, provides a balance of compute, memory, and networking. You can use them for variety workloads such as application server, gaming server, backend servers for enterprise application, small and medium databases. Suppose that you have an application in which resources need to compute, memory, and network are roughly equivalent. You might consider using a general purpose instance for that application that does not require optimization of any single resource. Right? When you spin up something, basically, if you don't know or you're not sure, just hit up the general instance, right? VM, right? Because you can always switch VMs in and out. Right. So, it's funny you mentioned Oracle. They're giving cloud training free. Oh, that's true. The big deal though is I'm really perplexed. If you look at Google, Google said they're training 40 million people. I mean, yeah, no, they're looking for 40 million certified people. I'm like, 40 million people. I mean, so Google, Helmet, Google, and Oracle trying to get it because they need people trained in their cloud to recommend their cloud. And I grew up making a ton of money. My first bag I got was on Oracle. I was an Oracle DBA for 3 or 4 years, and that's when I first started making 6 figures in the game. Was with that at Oracle. I ain't good on because I was an Oracle developer for about 10 years, and I became a DBA. Then I just kind of set up Oracle environments, right? Training both of them. I was kind of an SRE back before they would call that, right? I would help the programmers. I would help the DBA. I would optimize your index, optimize your select statements. So I would do all that for the Oracle helmet. So I made my first big money Oracle probably 2005 when I started making decent money, living that Oracle life. So yeah, Oracle's my first love, and I will always salute Larry Ellison for being arrogant. But the Oracle database was really one of the first big time databases off of a mainframe that you would work in the government. Neil Most, good afternoon. Is there any way I can contact you? I heard you have classes from Will and GA. Yeah, I got introduction to cybersecurity classes. I have a playlist out there. Everybody's asking me that, and I'll put it in the description of this box. If you go to my about on my channel, It's professorblackops@gmail.com. Just reach out to me. Shout out to I feel you, Travelers. Teams is kind of but I do like it with working from home, so I'm not gonna. Funny thing about my boss calls me, I run over to my computer, hit my little camera. What's up? I love Teams, man. I didn't like it till it allowed me to work from home. I'm a level 2 analyst at 2 companies. Just got promoted level 3 engineer specifically for Teams OneDrive and SharePoint, so I know what you mean. Yeah, SharePoint from a security perspective in OneDrive, I like Teams, but they have too many places to store stuff. Teams encryption wasn't bad when I did a security review on it. SharePoint wasn't too bad, but after a while, you just start getting a proliferation of data. And for me, I need it's called FTI, federal tax information. I do a lot of tax information or HIPAA data. I do a lot of HIPAA stuff. We need to get all that in one place, damn it. We, we just got it strewn all over there. And then two is in SharePoint, who's giving permissions to these different SharePoints, folders, and directories? How do we know they got minimum security? We got to make sure we work with the team leads to make sure they're just not giving everybody whatever they want to do in these folders. If they only need read, give them read. If they need rewrite, what other teams are you giving access to those folders, right? So Teams just got a lot of stuff in it. A lot of it's good. It's just a lot of stuff. You just gotta get on your organization to get them going in the right direction. Peter, between Google Cloud and AWS, which is protected better? I would say AWS. I've done a little Google. When I did a security review on Google, they were decent. AWS just been in a business of doing federal work. Remember, I worked at DoD for 10 years, so that's top of the line. AWS has been doing federal work for 20 years. So when you talk about FITS 140-2 encryption at rest for databases, security checks for all your compliance, AWS does that in their sleep, Peter. Let's talk about the compute optimized VM, ideal for compute bound applications that benefit from high performing processors like general purpose. You can use compute optimization for workloads such as web application and gaming. However, different compute applications for our high purpose performance, web server, compute intensive application, dedicated gaming. You can also use compute optimized instance for batch processing workloads. Right, so depending on is your data warehouse is computation, or is it you just got so much data you need to pull it off the disk, right? Depending on which type of data warehouse depends on which type of EC2, right, which is slash VM where you would spin up for that particular workload. Memory optimized, design deliver fast performance workloads to process large data sets in memory. And computer memory is temporary storage. This holds all the data instructions that are central to the CPUs. It needs to be able to complete before a computer program or application is able to run. It loads from storage into memory. Suppose that your workload requires a large amount of data to be preloaded before running. This scenario might be high performance database workload involving performance in real time or a large amount of unstructured data. So once again, memory optimizes a different type of VM depending on your workload. That's one reason I like AWS. They usually have the tool for your job, right? Our migrations are done using PowerShell, mostly through Azure. Yeah, I don't PowerShell much as I should. So yeah, Helmet chilling gaming with you. Please provide Oracle link. Also look Oracle infrastructure to discern those two cloud performance will pay a lot. Scarce skills pay a lot. That is true. Oracle. Oh, that is true, and there's still a ton of Oracle products out there. So I'm sure they got those optimizing their cloud. Like I said, I've done they bought WebLogic application server, so that's a big time product. And Oracle bought a couple hundred products over the last couple years, and they always optimizing it to their cloud. So Oracle's still in the game. I think they're trying to get a little of that Jedi money, that $10 billion they're kind of spreading around. I need to look at Biden's infrastructure bill because part of that was cybersecurity had a piece of that. So I really want to dig in there and see if they had any federal grants or fundings inside that Biden infrastructure bill for the cybersecurity guys, us. Right. So Google's pushing a lot. Yeah, I just Tribe, I brought that up. Yeah, they were talking about they want to get 40 million certified people. It was some crazy number like that. I'm like, 40 million people? That's a crazy amount of numbers, right? Thank you, Professor. I send you an email. That's cool, game over. I will definitely respond. If I don't respond, you just hit me back. But I'm sure I respond. I usually try to check my email once a day, and we could definitely set some up. If I didn't respond, game over. That means I didn't get it. Put a comment on a video or something, so I see it. I respond to 99% of my comments on my videos. Yeah, airport and 5G were part of that bill. Oh, that's cool, Antonio. Like I said, I've been hearing bits and pieces. Like I said, I just was going to see what part they were giving to cybersecurity. Um, we're giving a lot of lip service to cybersecurity. There's a lot of jobs opening to cybersecurity. We seem to be training a lot of people in cybersecurity, but I don't hear a lot of people getting jobs in cybersecurity. So we got to figure out what that gap is, people, on how we can close it, and how we can make it better, make sure we all on point, getting the skills we need to get the bag and progress, right? I'm getting old. Y'all young guys need to get in here and make it, make it happen. Thank you, my vivid life. I need my handheld. Be sure. Let's get some of that for you. I got you, game over. We'll go, we'll go check it out. Accelerated instance use hardware and co-processor become more efficiently than possibly software running on the CPU. Example of these functions is floating point graphic processing, data pattern matching. And I've been trying to figure out how to make money in the metaverse. So I'm sure the metaverse is going to be an accelerated computer instance, right? The computer hardware accelerators component can expedite data processing. Accelerating computer instances are ideal for workloads such as graphics, application, gaming, streaming, and application streaming, right? So I've been on a couple panels talking about the metaverse and what that looks like. Somebody called me the dark Sith. I was so negative about the metaverse. They were calling me the dark Sith. So I'm gonna need to cheer up a little bit. So, but I think that's gonna be 5 or 6 years out. How do you make money in it, and how do you, like I said, fit in and get in early and figure out what's happening. I got out from my military a couple years ago, less than 2 years ago, and I had a secret clearance. Then and my clearance is still. Oh, that's what's happening. My clearance is probably about 5 or 6 years ago, because I worked at a big state client and not a federal client. I have a FBI background check, but it's not a security clearance check. I had a NAC, which is a low-level security clearance, and I was actually just getting my top secret, not my top secret, my secret when I was leaving. The funny thing is, my 14 in my area, which is high up in DoD, said, do you have a secret? Do you have a secret clearance? I go, no, I got a NAC. He goes, you work on a server every day. I go, well, I got promoted to working on servers when I started, that 3 years ago. I wasn't even getting on servers. So, and two is clearances is way to go. You make more money. But if you got the skills and you apply for a consulting job at a federal government, the consulting company pay for your clearance. I got couple big companies I'm thinking about working for, and they told me, it won't be a big deal, especially since I had a clearance, right? It shouldn't be that hard for me to get another one. Nothing's changed in my life. Yeah, straight up, game over. Meta versus the new game for Facebook. They said they were investing $10 billion in it, and they were going to have hire 10,000 programmers in Europe. So I was a little mad at Mark. You need to get some programmers in the United States. Come on, Mark. But yeah, I think Facebook is going to be. But some and two is don't. They're not the only metaverse in there. Apple's going to get their metaverse up. I'm sure Oracle they do everything. So a lot of big companies going to have their own version of the metaverse, and if they're going to be interoperable, meaning they can work together, or is it going to be one metaverse? So they're still figuring it out, right? So right, Helmet, Microsoft's gonna have their own metaverse. So Facebook, they're not gonna be the own metaverse. I think they got a good head start because they got Oculus and some other tools for the metaverse. But Microsoft has Xbox, and that game technology, and stuff like that that's gonna kind of lend itself to get started in the metaverse. Let's talk about storage optimized instance. Once again, we talk about the optimized VMs you can spin up from AWS. And in 2022, we're actually going to start living on this. So we actually start spinning up VMs and checking them out in real life and doing light performance tests on them to see how they would handle with different forms of performance load on them. My program, like I told everybody forever, so as part of programming, we had to do performance tests on it to make sure, especially at DoD, because we were running through a billion records every night. So if your design could have a billion records, right, that could be a problem, right? So we have to do performance tests to make sure your application or whatever you design or whatever you could program can handle a billion records in a 6 hour period, right? Which sounds easy, but a lot of times is you would pop memory. You would use all the memory up on a box, so you would have to take those billions and split them up into different workloads and run them parallel, right? So they could all get finished. So there's different ways to handle it, but you want to make sure whatever design your architect or SRE, SRO came up with could handle that type of load. And right, that's why I tell people I'm a big guy with big systems. Once again, storage optimized, example workload suitable for that distributed file system. Once again, data warehouse applications, large ones, high frequency online training. In computing terms, input and output operations per second. IOPS is a metric that measures the performance of storage devices. It indicates how many different input and output operation device can perform on 1 second. Storage optimized instigator are delivered in tens of thousands of low latency random IHOPs, right, which is in an operation per second. You can think of input operations as data into a system, such as records into a database, and an output operation is data generated by a server, for example, output by analytical program to records in the database. Right. So when you get to a certain level, like you see, you start dealing with billions of rows, or you Facebook, right? They deal with petabytes every night, trillions of rows of log files they're trying to keep track of, and uploading how many videos and just the data these application handles now is mind-boggling. All right, so when you talk about how many people are on YouTube, Facebook, Snapchat, Twitter, I ain't even got on Twitter good yet. All those together is just, just a massive amount of data. So that's one thing I tell people is I love to do big systems. That's one thing I do miss at DoD is working on big systems because stuff you think should work easy when you start running billions of rows through, you're like, that's running slow, right? So I like figuring those problems out. The cool thing now is with the cloud, like we just looked at, they got high performance disk and high performance database and optimized memory. You didn't get that in the 80s. It was all one machine. You had to figure out how to maximize that using programming, like we said, scale out, scale up, right? You have different machines for different tasks, right? You might get some, maybe from a SAN, you might get some different disks and the block size different from a warehouse and the transaction, right? But from that stuff, you got to figure it out. NVIDIA has Omniverse. Shout out to NVIDIA because finding a NVIDIA chip with all the Bitcoin people and the blockchain, right? Everybody needs that graphics power. Would you recommend upgrading to Windows 11 or is it better to wait? I'm a pessimist, JM, on Windows 11. I'm a pessimist in nature, so I usually wait till about 2 or 3 version updates before I upgrade. Because I'm lazy. Because if it messes up, I don't want to reload my software and do all that stuff. So I'm always a late guy to that, GM, because um, to be honest, my battle station is not super impressive. I do most of my stuff in the cloud. I do most of my programming. Smile, then I ship it up to the cloud or ship it on the server at work. So I don't need a killer battle station, GM. Alibaba gonna have shout out, Alibaba's gonna have it. It's gonna be the biggest because they're gonna make everybody in China get on Alibaba. So they're gonna have the biggest metaverse on it. And after that Jam 6 starts to leak, facts. I bet Sony will have a running game. Yeah, yeah, Sony's definitely gonna have a metaverse, man. Shout out to Erica. I was thinking about mm, game over. Hey, Professor, do you see a comment on this V blog? Guess to remember you, I need my. I got you. How many things? 10 minutes. My wax appointment. Uh oh. Shout out to the wax. I will. Game over. I will definitely check the things the video are doing, what they're going, read speed, bypass. Oh, facts, helmet. I think graphic processors are actually becoming the new CPU and GPU part when you talk about computing, right? Because so much stuff is being offloaded, like you said, by bypassing the CPU, by getting the graph cards. And like we talked about, a lot of those servers, they're offloading or optimizing different parts of the VM server where you don't need to tax the CPU because I got a gang of memory or I got the graphics chip in there or I got, the optimized CPU with the 90 cores in it, right? So each one of them was a little different. Congratulations, Erica, on passing the Network Plus. Currently working on the ISA CSA, AWS security, not some certain personal training. I might need to hit you up on a personal training. I'm trying to get it together in 2022. So let's talk a little bit about pricing. That's the cool thing about AWS. You can save a lot of money depending on how you set up your server and your pricing. On demand, EC2 saving plans, reserve instances, spot instances, like we talked about, dedicated hosts. If I know I'm gonna use a host for so long, right? Amazon, if you get the whole, and we'll get into, they give you like 70% off of that server because they know you're gonna use it, right? They know they're gonna handle it, right? So on demand instances are ideal for short-term and regular workloads that cannot be interrupted. There's no upfront costs or minimum contract to apply. The instance runs continuously until you stop them and pay only the compute time you use. Simple use of on-demand includes developer and testing applications, running an application that has unpredicted use pattern. On-demand instances are not recommended for workloads that last a year or longer because these workloads are experiencing greater costs using reserved instance, right? AWS offers saving plans for several compute instances. Amazon EC2 savings enable you to reduce your compute cost by committing to a consistent amount of usage for 1 or 3 years. This term commitment results in a savings up to 66% of on-demand costs. Any usage or commitment is charged to discounted rate, for example, $10 an hour, and usage beyond the commit is charged at a regular on-demand rate. So the big thing in there is right is the savings plan, and you can get up to 66% savings if you commit to. If you got a web server, you know you're gonna have it running a year or 3 years. If you got a big thing, so you might as well get the savings, right? You can save a ton of money, right? I worked with a large customer. They saved, I think he said he saved 50% on his IT cloud budget when he went from on-prem to cloud. But he said he ended up paying the exact same amount, but he actually got way more features, right? He said he got extra security, extra WAF. There's some things we're going to go through where Amazon has services that look over your architecture and recommend security or best practices for you. He said he got all that stuff, so he thinks 200% more services for the same amount he was paying on prem. Right. Later in this course, we review AWS Cost Explorer, tools that enable you to visualize and understand and manage your AWS costs and usage over time. If you consider an option of saving plans, AWS Cost Explorer can analyze your Amazon EC2 usage, which we were showing talking about with the VMs, 70, 30 days, or 60. The AWS the AWS Cost Explorer provides customized recommendation. These recommendations estimate how much you can save over your monthly EC2 cost based on a previous EC2 cost, an hourly commitment, and 1 year or 3 year plan. Right. So Amazon's got tools to help you, save money. Reserve instances are billing discounts applied to use on demand. You can purchase standard reserve or convertible reserve instances for 1 year or 3 year term. Schedule reserve instances for a 1 year plan. You realize the greater saving for 3 year option. At the end of reserve instance term, you can continue using Amazon EC2 instance without interruption. However, you are charged on demand rates until you do one of the following: terminate the instance or purchase a new reserve instance machine that attributes the region, tenancy, and platform. right? So if you're a company, you know you're definitely gonna do something at least for a year. If you're a company, unless you're a startup, right? You're gonna use those savings, right? So with the reserve plans, you might as well go ahead and get it, right? So that's the thing. So spot instances are ideal for workloads that flexible starts and end at a time or can withstand interruption. Spot instances are unused Amazon EC2 computing capacity and offer you cost savings up to 90% off of on demand. So you get 90% saving. Suppose that you have a background processing job that can start and stop as needed, such as a data processing for customer survey. You want to start and stop the process job without affecting uh, your overall operation of your business. If you make a spot request and Amazon capacity is available, your spot instance launch. However, you make a spot request, Amazon capacity is unavailable. The request is not successful and capacity becomes available. The unavailable capacity might be a delay launch of your background processing job. But if you know how much you're gonna need to do your background processing when you start, or you can start at any time and stop at any time. You get 90% savings on that, right? What's up, Alpha Cybersecurity? Everybody go check out Alpha. He's a red team pen testing guy. I don't want to shortchange him. One of the top creators out here. I haven't told him that personally, but we're gonna do a blue team, red team challenge. I'm gonna lock down a Amazon architecture. I'm gonna do all the networking. Then I'm gonna challenge Alpha Cybersecurity and give him a couple days to see if he can hack my impenetrable AWS setup. I'm gonna do. No, we actually gonna do something together and we're gonna collab. So, and two is I'm hoping to have the logs up. So while he's attacking, we can actually look at the logs and kind of track what he's doing, and so you can see it live and in person, right? Um, like I said, I've been talking a lot in 2021. I'm up in 2022 to live, and he's actually one of the guys I know, top guys I know, red team, blue team attack. So we're actually gonna definitely do a collab. I haven't asked him yet, but I'm putting him out there. So and two is we're gonna invite everybody so we can look at the logs, and hopefully we're gonna have everybody spin up their free tier instance on Amazon. And hopefully, as he attack my instance on your free instances, I can pump your logs in once you give me your instance in line. You can see live and in person as we do this attack and do this exercise. Is it illegal to navigate the deep web for learning purposes, Professor? That's a loaded question, Jim. Navigate, you mean searching. Are you talking about when you say, are you planning on getting on people's VMs without their permission? or when you mean deep web, are you talking about the dark web? I know those are two separate things. Navigating the dark web for educational purposes, no. I've been on there before. I've actually seen people try to sell grenades on the dark web. So no, that's not illegal, Jam. Until you try to purchase one, that's when it becomes illegal, right? Or until you try to buy something you shouldn't buy in a foreign country, that's when it becomes illegal, Jam. Just navigating the dark web. No, those are just servers that are not listed in the DNS, so people can see them. So when you go to Amsterdam and buy that illegal person, JM, that's when it becomes illegal, man. Just navigating, no, you're good. Alpha Cyber. Yeah, I got a challenge. I'm got a challenge out to you, Gay Bay, and Kenny Conjo. So I'm working on my Stig Hard AWS impenetrable architecture. Dedicated host or physical host service with Amazon EC2 capacity that's fully dedicated to your use. You can use existing per cycle, per core, per VM software license to help maintain license compliant. You can purchase on demand dedicated host reservations of all Amazon EC2 options that were covered. Dedicated hosts are the most expensive, right? Because you buy the whole server, right? But from a security perspective, I like buying the whole server because then I don't have to worry about certain VMs getting hacked, right? Because on a dedicated host, I control all the VMs, I control the host. I don't control the root OS, right? But nobody's on the root but me and Amazon, right? So those type of things. So now we're going to talk about when within Amazon EC2 auto scaling, you can do two approaches. You can do dynamic scaling or predictive scaling, right? Yeah, AWS is kind of a different beast, Alpha. It is a unique hack set. And two is I ain't gonna be cheap. I'm gonna try to get the AWS WAF, the AWS inspector. I'm trying to lock it down so I don't get embarrassed. I don't get it. So let's talk about the dynamic scaling response to changing demand. Predictive scaling automatically schedules the right number of Amazon instances based on a predictive demand. Right. So predictive scaling we get into, right? That's machine learning for Amazon. It can see what you've done over 3 months or a year, and it can kind of predict when you need an EC2 instance. Right. I work for a lot of government companies, right, and a lot of financial companies. They're always going to have end of month processing, right? That's going to be for manufacturing, accounting, closing books, closing quarters, right? Most of that stuff's done at the end of the month. So instead of waiting for those dynamic scaling where those requests happens, the predictive will say, we know we're doing end of process, and we usually know it's this big. Go ahead and spin up those 5 EC2 instance with high compute, because what we're doing is memory intensive. We're counting, right? We're just doing numbers and doing calculations, right? So spin up this particular VM and for this particular year, because we always gonna have end of month, in a quarter type processing, right? We're gonna dig a little more in there. We get off into that machine learning. Shout out to engineering cannabis. So, questions for everyone who's not in this question in cybersecurity yet. Go ahead, Neo Miles, drop the question. So this is the auto scaling group, right? So you tell Amazon what's the min, and what's the maximum amount of EC2 VMs you want to speed up. You can say if there's 70% capacity on this VM, go ahead and spin up the next one. Don't spin up more than 4 VM servers because I'm broke. If I get that much transaction, they're gonna have to wait, right? So, because when people attack you too, you got to be careful. Is if you get a DDoS attack, you don't want to spin up 1,000 servers because you're getting attacked, because you got to pay for those, right? So you want to set up a maximum that says, hey, this is how much I want to spend at the month. This is the max. So anything over this, I'm just gonna lose business, or they're gonna have to wait and come back, right? Because you don't want some kind of DDoS attack to have you on some crazy amount of money. Right. Okay, so this is the predictive. I took this from Amazon. This shot from Amazon. Predictive scaling. You see in the purple, proactive response to changing demand using ML technology, which is machine learning. Faster accommodates long warm up times by bringing up instances in advance of impending spikes. Accurately prevent downscaling during sudden uptime traffic dips. Simpler to automatically track changing traffic patterns when changing customers' usage pattern, right? So the machine learning is going to learn about your business and kind of figure out from a baseline what you do, right? And the cool thing about that too is that machine learning is going to help you with security, because normally throughout the week I need 3 VMs. At the end of the month I need 5. All of a sudden I'm using 10 and 20 is trying to spin up that month. Is that a DDoS attack? Is one of my employees trying to virtually mine Bitcoin on my machine? Is somebody running a gaming operation inside the company, inside my AWS, stuff I buy? So I need to so that machine learning will help you kind of figure out, okay, this is an abnormal spike. What's causing it? Somebody said, oh, we did a sale. Cool. Okay. Programmer, oh, we spun up this new service. It's big data, and that's why we need these many more. Cool, right? But at least you know your baseline infrastructure metrics for machine learning. They'll tell you that so you can go investigate it, right? You never want to be surprised. The surprise is happening. Now go figure out what's happening. Let's see. Getting into cybersecurity. Where does it get started? I'm in a JavaScript with HTML so far. That's a cool place to start, Neo Moss. I programmed for 10 years before before I got into cybersecurity. Um, So that's not a bad place to start. That's intro to programming. The reason why programming is good because when you're a programmer, a lot of ways you get hacked are to your website, which is programmed with HTML, Java. That's why most companies get hacked. Then when you're a programmer, as you scale up into a full stack developer, you're going to be loading your programmers on Apache, Tomcat, IIS, WebLogic, and you start learning those other technologies as you get better at programming because your program sits on those technologies to work. And of course, what my man's just talking about, when your Java's got to connect to a database. Mine connected to Oracle. You got MySQL, um, SQL Server. There's so many out there. MongoDB. If you're talking about the NoSQL stuff. So as you become a better programmer and get better, you use more of those resources as you get comfortable. And as you know your resources, you can talk about securing those neo models. So that's not a bad place to start where you start now. Oh, my Vivid, she's right there with you. Oh, right, good place to ask. So now that's my take on it. But like I said, Neil, that's how I got into the game, and I started as a programmer. That's actually my first love. And if you look back on the screen, predictive learning, machine learning modules, billions of data points in Amazon, loads the metrics in the forecast. It performs the regression analysis between load metrics and scaling. It schedules the scaling actions for the next one and repeats every day. And if you look at the bottom, that's the machine learning saying, okay, what's the peak times? When are the times? When the times goes down? What's the capacity in these times on-prem, not on-prem, right? So it takes all that machine learning and figures out when you would need a new EC2 spun up to help your organization. Right? So that from that. Game over. So engineering cannabis, I see you person center and helmet gaming and chat. Oh, so yeah. Can I donate to you with crypto? So yeah, you gotta watch it. People be out there running cryptos on your machine. So let's talk about load balancing. That's the one of the big topics. I mean, we kind of went over it because when you spin up uh, horizontal scale, you spin up machines. Does your application know when to connect and how to connect and when to spin up, right? So last year, load balance is AWS service that automatically distributing incoming application traffic across multiple resources such as Amazon EC2 Instance. The load balancer acts as a single point of contact for all incoming traffic to your auto scaling group. That means that you add or remove auto Amazon instances in response to amount of incoming traffic. This request routes back to the load balancer first. Then the request spreads across multiple resources that will handle them. So if you look at the top, you got the two. The box has your auto scaling group. In that auto scaling group, we saw at the top, I can say the maximum was 4. So I had 2 people hit my website. Now I got 4 people. Obviously, that's the threshold. It spins up 2 more instances in the auto scaling group. Then my elastic load balancer, right? Those are the lines that are passing requests down to my EC2, right? So I spin up 2 more. My elastic load balancer at the end, it connects, it gives it a health check and a heartbeat saying, I see you, new EC2 group, you ready? And I can start passing you information as it comes in, right? Shout out to Before the Billions. Go check his channel out. Uh, he's on the grind. He's always up at 1 a.m. in the midnight. I wake up and see him online. I just go back to bed, people. I'm too old, man. I ain't gonna be live streaming at 1 a.m. That's for the young people. But shout out to him. Go check his channel out. Data scientist, uh, making moves. Great content provider. Me and him definitely gonna do some collabs in 2022 when I start getting my lab spun up. So I'm always on this channel. Um, so we always doing it. Like I said, another great content provider. So this is the you see in purple the elastic load balancers that are coming in, right? So when we get extra traffic, it spreads them out among EC2 instances. The cool thing about it, if you notice the big VPC, you see availability zones at the bottom. Those are different data centers, right? So you can have your load balancers come in, send them to one data center or the other. So if one data center is out, or if the one data center is having a problem, you automatically fell over into another availability zone, which is another data center, right? And we're going to dig down in a couple of weeks and really dig into those data centers and how they operate and how they got separate power, separate recovery zones. Usually they're within, I think, 100 miles of each other. They got dark fiber. They're talking within 10 milliseconds of each other between those data centers. So your app won't even know that it's actually spreading out between two data centers. And we'll get into that from disaster recovery, COOP analysis, and why a lot of people are just taking that whole disaster recovery up into Amazon. Are you taking a break from classes and YouTube the rest of 2021? No, I think I got four more of these. Then I might just take live questions and just pontificate for the rest of the year. That's probably what I do. I probably just come online because obviously there's always good questions and I can pontificate with the best of them. So I think I got because this is actually, and I'm actually change the thumbnail. This is actually the AWS practitioner test. I'll put that at the same level as Security Plus, and actually I'll meld them together because most of your security now is going to be done in the cloud. So I just meld them together. Most of those like I said, most people are going to the cloud. So you need to understand these basic services and about them so you know how the security and how they're used and you know how to drill down into them. So start where you start. This is facts, chestnut check. I'm in net infrastructure support. I just subbed you, cool. I looked at the job description. Preparing gain education skills for what you're looking for. Facts. I'm used to the GCP, so AWS is all new to me. There's very few people I know using Google actually before the billions. I know a few. I actually got a guy I'm super cool with. He's a Google security guy. He's gonna come on my channel early in 2022. I just don't know a ton of people using Google. I don't know a ton of businesses using Google. I know a ton of individual people before the billions. I don't know a ton of businesses using Google yet. So I'm just going to talk about these. From Elastic Load Balancers, there's different types. The first one is an application load balancer. If you look at the source, you see HTTPS, HTTP, WebSocket, gRPC, remote procedure call. These are all websites and how they communicate. So for my application load balancer, I can look at things inside my HTTP headers or on my URL at the top of it, and I can make decisions about what targets I want to go to them. How do I want to check them? Do I want to do a sticky session? Meaning you came to my web page, you went to my Tomcat. My Tomcat has your session because you ordered a book and you keep going back to add to your cart. I got to send you back to the same Tomcat, right? Because it has that session information inside that one Tomcat, right? So it's called sticky session. I need to send you back to the same application server that has your session information saved. Like I said, if it was a shopping cart or something, or how you were doing it, right? So that's why you would use an application load balancer. Once again, it's, if you see the source, it's all HTTPS, WebSockets, right? All this is coming from your web server. If you look at the top, you got Amazon Kineto, which is helping you with your identity management. It'll help you connect to SAML, Azure Directory, ton of authentication services, AWS certificate management, and the WAP application firewall, right? Then you see the targets over there, right? Auto scaling, right? So those are different load balancers. So you need to use, once again, like EC2, you need to use the correct load balancer for the job you're trying to do. So like I said, this is medium level, so we just gonna hit them at a high level. Gateway load balancer. Once again, you don't have HTTP, you got internet and workload operations, right? That's usually gonna be TCP UDP, right? It's gonna be sticky sessions, right? And AWS private links means you can actually send it to a different VPC or different web server, right, inside of your operation or in a different operation, right? That's where you would use that gateway load balancer, right? Then the last one is just a basic load balancer coming in. You got your elastic IP or your static IP. You getting your search at the top, and you getting your network load balancers at the bottom, right? So that's usually coming from your web server to your app server, right? You're gonna usually have a network load balancer. So it's gonna be stationary network traffic, right? Hopefully going to elastic IP because you're ready for that. And like we said, the sticky session is gonna make whatever server has your information, it's gonna send it back to that server so it can figure out that you logged in. It can figure out what you put in the card or that type of information, right? So that type of load balancer would do that. So I'm gonna skip over that. Let's see what's in there in GCP. I can I can I like to help. That's why I usually tell my students when they make me mad, because usually I cut my class in half. It's usually a 4 hour class. I usually talk for 2 hours and I let them lab for 2 hours. But then somebody will make me, say something crazy. I'm like, dude, I can talk for the 4 hours. I can keep you here for 4 hours. I could easily pontificate for 4 hours with the best of them. So yeah, I think it depends on your area. That's probably true before the billions. That's probably true before your area GCP. Like I said, I'm in the Midwest, so they usually AWS and Azure. Most people here I know are using multi-cloud server. PricewaterhouseCoopers using Google. That's cool, my Vivid. I didn't know that. Actually, I was thinking about somebody told me they're gonna walk my resume if I want to go work for PricewaterhouseCooper. I'm thinking about going to work for them. So I've only had jobs usually because they don't use third party companies unlike AWS. That's cool. Well, I will as soon as I let me finish. Let me finish pontificating. Game over. Then I'll answer your email. I promise. Let me pontificate. Then after the stream, give me about an hour after the stream, then I'll respond to your email. I promise. Amazon Simple Notification Server is a publish subscribe service using Amazon SNS topic. A publisher publish message to subscribers. This is similar to a coffee shop. The cashier provides the order to the barista who makes the drinks. In Amazon SNS, which is simple notification. Subscribers can be with the web server email address, AWS Lambda function, or other options. So you kind of want to decouple, your application so you're not waiting on any one thing. So if you look at here, if you're working, so a lot of times I move files or organizations, I move files or information. So I don't want to cook my application to that vendor system where they're waiting on me, right? Because if I'm doing maintenance or they're doing maintenance, right, we're not in sync or some can be dropped, right? So if you see the graph, so if I publish it to the Amazon SNS, right, it sits in that cloud, right? Then whatever service I need to grab it, it could be Lambda, HTTPS, email, or SMS can go inside the Amazon SNS and actually take that off the queue, right? So I'm publishing it on the queue and they're taking it off on the queue. So if they're down when I'm publishing it, it's not a big deal. It's gonna wait inside Amazon SNS topic queue until they spin up and take it off. If I just keep publishing it in there, it's no big deal. When they're ready to get it, whatever that is, right? They'll come inside the SNL topic and pull it off. We don't need to be in sync. If I send some and they're not ready or if they're down and we're not in sync, we don't have to worry because we're gonna publish it in the topic queue and then it'll make sure it pulls it off. And there's things in Amazon topic queue that it says, okay, it's published on there. I'm gonna send you a response saying you're good. Amazon's got it. Don't worry about it. Amazon has backups of that. They actually has it clustered. So if one topic queue goes down, it's automatically replicated to another topic queue. Amazon takes care of all that for you, right? From that perspective. So that's why pub and sub is kind of a good thing when you're trading information, files, bank files, dollar files, warrants. I mean, I worked in a lot of different industries, right? You print out checks and you wait for the checks to be printed, right? So you put the checks on the topics queue. Usually we have an outside vendor print checks or print something big because of the volume, right? So our check printing place or our whatever we're using to print out big bulk letters, right? We put it on the top queue. When they're ready to print it, they go out there and get it, right? So that's why that's a good product. Amazon Simple Queue is a queue messaging a service. Using Amazon QS, you can send, store, and receive messages, software components without losing messages or requiring other services. An application can send messages queues, and users receive messages queue processes in and out. Right. So we'll see that. So usually I put it in the queue, right, and one person on the other side can do. On a pub and sub, I could put it in there multiple times, and multiple companies could come in there and pull it out. Usually, queue is one-on-one service. The other cool thing about the queue is, if you see, is that's a bi-directional queue. The top queue is me sending it to the vendor. The vendor is sending me something back in the response queue, right? So a lot of times I send it to the queue when they print it or complete their processing. They'll put a time and date in the response queue when that's done. So I'll get that response, linked it to the record that I use to send that information out, right? So we can close the loop of what happened to that particular check file, data file, correspondence, right? When it was printed, when it was sent out. So that's where you use that bi-directional queue. Let's see, Azure, no problem just picking up. Before the business, I think GCP would be a huge player. Eventually, they could see what others are not doing, see the field. Yep, depends on the region. Alibaba, GCP, others will have their own niches in other regions. That's true. Or metaverse hosting, whatever. Newer players popped up, VR blown up. Oh, that's cool. That's cool, Erica. So now that's true. And shout out to Before the Billions. That's right. It depends on the area. But if you look at who's the biggest and who's got the most market share right now, it's AWS, Azure, then Google, right? But like you said, it also depends on the area, right? The weird thing is Google was paying more than the other two because um, Google seemed to be so rare to find Google certified people, especially architects. So it's weird their salaries and pricing from a get paid perspective was better at Google because I don't think a lot of people are into that yet or getting into that. AWS Lambda is a service that lets you run code without needing to provision or manage a server. While using AWS Lambda, you only pay for the compute time that you consume. Charges only apply when your code is running. You can also run code virtually any type of application or backend service, all with zero administration. Right. So if we look at the slide at the bottom, you upload your code to Lambda, set a code to trigger from an event. The code only runs when triggered, pay only for the compute time, right? So let's be clear. Lambda is serverless, meaning Amazon's taking care of the EC2 instance underneath for you. So it's not serverless. It's meaning you're not doing anything with the server. But when you do Lambda, like I'm gonna put Java out there. When my web server hit that Java code, right? The Java code is gonna be the trigger. Amazon's gonna spin up an EC2 underneath my Java, put my Java code on it, run it, right? Once it's done running it, once all the transactions get through running it, right, it's gonna take that llama. So there's no more hits, right? There's no more activity at after 9 p.m. So I'm gonna decouple this EC2 instance server underneath you, and you're not paying any more charges. We're at the above setup, right? We have one EC2, right? Even though it's auto scaling, when it auto scales down, we at least probably have one running. We'll never have zero. So as long as one's waiting for a request, we getting charged for that request, right? So that's the difference. Lambda, even though it's serverless, you still have a server. You're just not managing the server, right? And that's the AWS screenshot I took of it. So I have to go check it out. What's up, Savage Scientist? Go check him out. He's doing some great programming videos on there. I was checking it out. I'm a Java guy, so I'm old. So he was doing he wasn't doing Java, but it was excellent anyway. But no, go check him out. Subscribe. Great great YouTube content creator. Like I said, the Spheres got a lot of great talent out there. Go check him out. Professor, the SolarWinds hack, I believe that was an employee was not following policy, something to do with an old VPN. How can you mitigate people not following policy? Thank you. Um, for Metropolis, I blame both of them guys. If you look at Duo and Windows Defender, when you connect to both of those products, they can check the version of the product you're using. So if you look at Windows Defender or Duo, you can say when this device connects, see what version of that device is using. So what happened is when that employee connected with that VPN, Windows Defender should have looked at that VPN and said, "Hey, you're not up to date. You need to update your workstation with this VPN, or you can't connect." Right. So that goes both ways. A lot of times, especially employees, especially non-technical employees, they're not looking at their VPN version to make sure they're up to date in the Metropolis. That's on us, and I'm saying the security team and IT operations. We need to have products. Well, like I said, Windows Defender and Duo does that. When you connect it, it says, okay, what OS are you running on? What VPN OS? And is your virus protection up to date? So it can look at different um, products on your machine and check their version. If they're not up, versions aren't up to date, those products actually can slam those updated products out there and force you to update. So I think that was the felon of that Metropolis. We call that NAC2 when you click on it. So you need to have those products to check to make sure, especially now when people are working remotely, right? If they're not up in the office updating their PC and their workstation, or we're not pushing updates to them, Metropolis, the IT operations needs those products to make sure whatever connects to their network is up to date, and the security team or the IT operations agree to what level of versions of any software you're using connecting is up to date. Yeah, that's the AWS Lambda. Run code without thinking about the servers or cluster. If you look at the top, we are gonna get some of that 1 million requests free. We can get that AWS free tier so we can practice and make that happen. Run code without provisioning, managing infrastructure. That's what we said. Zip code. Well, that's what we get in the slide. The cool thing, once again, you need an AWS free tier so we can get out there and test it out to see if we like it. That's true. You were doing C plus, which is C plus plus. C sharp, all that C plus plus. I'm more C sharp because it's closer to Java. I ain't done C plus plus in 20 years. I've actually done C and assembler. That's where I'm at. So, mm, so that's the workflow. If you go out to Amazon, that's the workflow. So if you had a code in the S3 bucket with front end code for a web app. You actually click on it, it actually goes to the Amazon API gateway. Make sure your REST API calls to the endpoint. Then with your AWS Lambda, with that code, it would run your code and it would connect to your DynamoDB, SQL DB in the back end from Amazon. Sends your information back out to the person that clicked on the weather. Once all those requests was done, the server that was underneath your Lambda would spin down and you would no longer being charged for that. So, go check those people out. Like I said, cyber scientists be doing some great programming on this channel. So I stepped over there. And it's funny that Metropolis was talking about SolarWinds. Part of that SolarWinds hack, if you look at the development workflow, a lot of times somehow the VPN let the foreign adversaries get into development queue, got into the repository, then the Jenkins actually, put it actually into the package build, right, for SolarWinds. Then SolarWinds pushed that out to their customers. So even though the developer was on the wrong VPN, the developer should have caught it with scanning. Once you check something into the repository, right, you should be scanning the repository for uh, coding standards, security checks, and two is known vulnerabilities. right? So with that in, when he went to Jenkins and got built into Lambda, right, then the PDF S3, right, to the Dynamo BDB, as it went into Jenkins, we should have been running test scripts to figure out why is there so many lines of code compared to what we thought we were developing, right? So there's a number of ways to check that from a pipeline development perspective, like we talked about in Metropolis. If the VPN wasn't up to date when the developer went to connect it in, it should have blocked it and said you need to upgrade the version of your VPN, right? And once the adversary got into the repository and got it built into Jenkins and got it into SolarWinds packages, they got pushed in there. How come in the development cycle we didn't catch it in there too? So there's a lot of balls that were dropped. So I was thinking from a cybersecurity perspective, from Jenkins, what can we look for? Extra code, the complexity of the code, because that was a lot of code to go get that command and control module for that SolarWinds hack, right? How did you get that into the code base, right? And how come it wasn't found? Right. So those are things we'll talk later in security, but even though this is the intro in AWS, I like to touch on those points because we're a cybersecurity channel, right? Let's touch on those a little bit. Right? So we're wrapping up. So the big deal now is containers. Everybody's programming in containers. Couple of clients I work with, we're doing security checks on containers. Of course, with Amazon, you can let Amazon manages the containers. So uh, Amazon Elastic Container Service is a highly scalable, highly performance container management system that enables you to run and scale containerized application on AWS. Amazon ESS supports Docker. Docker is a software platform that enables you to build, test, and deploy quickly. AWS supports the use of open source Docker community edition, subscription-based Docker enterprise. With AWS EC2, you can use API calls to launch and stop Docker and enable applications, right? So Google that Metropolis. I'm gonna do a stream on it. I got a couple streams on Docker. Is similar to a software VM. So Docker, you can put all your code in there. You can manage your networking in there, and it sits on top of kind of like what we look for VMware. You can actually do that with software, and it's called Docker. And the second one is called Kubernetes. Right. Those are my two big ones, and we're gonna dive into that in a later one. That Metropolis. We just touching our feet in the water today. But Amazon Elastic Kubernetes EKS is a fully managed service that you can use and run with Kubernetes. Kubernetes is open source software that enables you to deploy, manage, and containerize applications at scale. A large community of volunteers maintains Kubernetes. AWS actively works together with the community. New features and functions release of Kubernetes application. You can easily apply to your application, right? Usually, what I see is Java guys use Docker, and the C# guys use Kubernetes, right? Where I work at, that's what I see. What's up, Citizen Lou? Y'all go check out Citizen Lou. He definitely got me thinking. He didn't need a degree. He just went to boot camp and he's programming in real life. Uh, One of the top guys. We definitely chop it up on his channel. Go subscribe and another great programmer. And he actually just went to boot camp and didn't go to college. And he's actually programming professionally. And he's actually an expat. I guess he did. So, he's out there traveling. Yeah, Docker is cool. Metropolis, I'm getting better. If you look on my channel, I did a Stig review. I showed I think it was 100 checks you can do to secure your Docker Metropolis. So I'm actually gonna do a little more Stig and blue teaming stuff. Since I'm out there challenging Alpha Cyber, I got to work on locking it down. So yeah, there's a ton of checks you need to do with that Docker Metropolis. Like I said, I think I had 100 checks for Docker to make sure it was locked down. So. Of course, we have another feature. That's why I like AWS. They have so many services, and that's one reason I don't like them. They have so many services. Right? So now they got the AWS Fargate is a serverless compute engine container. It works with both Amazon ECS and AKS, right? So remember when you're doing Docker, there's a VM that attaches to Docker, right? Now you don't have to manage about that EC2 or VM. Fargate's going to manage that for you. So when you spin up and get requests on your Docker on your Kubernetes, Fargate's going to spin up the EC2 or VM underneath. And once again, when you stop having requests for your Docker Kubernetes, it's going to take that VM or that EC2 instance from underneath your containers, and you won't be getting charged for them, right? So that's those containers. And as we get further down, we're going to actually start labbing with those and actually look look at those in real life and see, how they're working, and see how you can configure them in AWS to maximize that. That's all I had for today. Anybody got any questions? Game over. I promise. Give me an hour, man. I'm gonna respond to your email. Go to anybody need me, go to my about page and just shoot me email. And like I said, if you want to chop it up, we can actually chop it up in person. And like I said, half the time I'm on Citizen Lou. We live on his channel, just chopping it up. And in 2022, I'm gonna start dropping a link. I need to stop struggle streaming and do a few updates. I just been busy and got a few things that's been kind of burning my time up and kind of taking me off focus. But I'm gonna get that all figured out and get that happening. Thanks, Erica, for dropping the Amazon certification link. So yes, like I said, there's a lot of good content out there. Like I said, check out Citizen Lou. He's out there. Salvage, Cyber, a young guy out there before the billions. He's always dropping links. I'm the only one not dropping links. Everybody else dropping. I'm usually on their channel chopping it up. Like I said, I'll stay a little longer if you got any. Thanks that Travis. I appreciate it. But like I said, yeah, we're gonna lab a little more in 2022. Citizen Lou said he's working on his AWS solution associate architect. I'm right behind him. I'm doing these slides for the practitioner, and the next one I think is going to be the associate architect. So my next round of slides, we're going to upgrade them, of course. Get ready for the associate architect, and better slides, better class, right? So that's hopefully my goals in 2022. Get ready for those bigger certs and start. Like I said, I just decided to go for the smaller one just to practice. I'm 53, man. I ain't studied for testing in years, so I need something to warm me up, get me back in the flow of studying, man. Because I promise you, the 20-year-old professor could memorize stuff a little better than a 53-year-old professor, but it's all good, man. We all out here grinding. We all out here getting it. That's all I got for y'all today, team. I'm going to stay around for any more questions or just shoot me an email. Look at my about. It's professorblackops@gmail.com, and I respond. And so if you post a comment on my video, I respond to 98% of them. Every now and then, YouTube doesn't show it to me, and I see it like 3 weeks later. But if you put it on there and YouTube's showing it, I'm gonna respond to it. How are you doing in your blockchain? I ain't doing well on that yet. Engineering cannabis. That's down the line for me. Everybody check out Engineering Cannabis. He was on Dr. Dubois, I'm messing his name up. That was a great interview. We were actually chopping it up on Black Heights, talking about the metaverse. He did a great piece on marketing in that and how that's going to work, and how AI, machine learning, is just going to figure out what you need and figure out how you move, figure out what you look at, figure out what you fake drink in a metaverse, right? Then it's going to figure out how best to advertise you, right? So we were chopping it up on Black Heights channel. So um, that's all I got today. I'm wrapping it up. Grigo said if my team won, they were winning when I came and gave the class. So it's all good. Like I said, if you need me, reach out. If you see Engineering Cannabis, he's all over the YouTube and the metaverse, and just giving out great knowledge. Like I said, we was chopping it up on about the metaverse. And it was super dope. So I'll check it out, B-Dub. I'll look for your email too. I'll respond. I'm out, everybody. Everybody have a great Sunday. Monday's here. I'm bombing. Cool thing is holidays here, so I'm taking a couple of days off around the holidays so I can just relax. I'm kind of more of a recluse. If you need me, once again, I'm great. Give me a minute. I'm gonna drink a little something. I'm gonna get on those emails. If I don't email you back in the day, just email me again. But I'm 99% sure you're gonna see them because I'm gonna check out, do all my emails today. I usually do them once a day while I'm eating. I got to go on a diet though. I'm out, everybody. Everybody have a good night and a good week. And I'm sure I'll see you around the YouTube. Engineering Cannabis. It's his channel. Just look up his channel. I think he's got a about to on his about.